In today's video, I am going to share with you everything that I bring with me in my bag when I travel, and make sure you watch until the end of the video because I will also show you some of the footage that I took in the past 2 weeks traveling in Japan, enjoying the cherry blossoms. And if any of the items that I talk about today interest you, make sure to check the link in the description. When I travel, the priority for me is to travel relatively light while being able to capture whatever I want. And I think that the kit that I am going to talk about today allows me to capture both photos and videos without feeling limited at all. First, let's talk about the backpack that I bring with me, and it is still the everyday backpack 30-liter version from Peak Design. What I like about this bag is that it is modular enough for me to fit all my gear and also have additional space for accessories or even a 16-inch laptop. Another thing is that I don't necessarily know where I will be going or hiking, right? And sometimes you don't have the luxury to put your bag down, so being able to access your gear without putting your bag down, like the Peak Design allows you to do, is a huge plus compared to other bags. A disclaimer though, I put my clothes in a different bag, and I think that if you want to fit both your clothes and your gear, I would suggest you to get a bigger version, either the travel bag version from Peak Design or another bag completely. I think that this bag over the years have served me well. It is definitely a pricey bag, but you have a warranty that comes with it. Wherever I bring it, I feel that my gear is secure and that the bag is not going to fail on me. Alright, so now let's talk about the cameras that I bring with me. First, you have the FUJIFILM X-T5, and I think that if you follow this channel, you have heard me talk a lot about this camera. Now, this is my main photography camera with its 40 megapixel, FUJIFILM dials, and pretty much everything that you like about FUJIFILM, right? I am very satisfied with this camera, whether it is performance in terms of autofocus or dynamic range. Also, the 40 megapixel is quite a big plus because it allows you to have some freedom cropping without losing too much resolution. Sometimes when traveling you don't have the perfect composition, and having that freedom in post is definitely a plus. The autofocus performance is definitely enough for what I shoot. Now, if you want to shoot extremely fast moving subject, maybe not the X-T5, but another model like the X-H2S might be better for you. But overall, for all the kind of photography that I do, which is travel, street, product, etc., I have not felt once that the X-T5 autofocus was not enough. Now for video, I bring with me the FUJIFILM X-H2S. When this camera was released, at first I did not think that I really wanted it. First, because of its ergonomics, it's really different from the XT series and it looks more like any other camera. I also thought that it was packing so much capability that I did not really need. However, over time I took on more and more video projects, and having the FUJIFILM X-H2S is a huge plus when it comes to shooting content for both horizontal and vertical version rate. Thanks to the 6.2K open gate, I really feel like my workflow is much easier right now. I do not need to think about shooting both horizontal and vertical while traveling, which is a huge gain of time. Now that doesn't mean that the X-H2S is not good for photos. 26 megapixel is still great, and the autofocus of the X-H2S is even better than the X-T5. I would also usually use the X-H2S when it comes to low light, high ISO capture, because I found that the performance of the X-H2S is slightly better than the X-T5 in low light. But overall, I would say that I use the X-H2S mostly for videos. Okay, so now let's move on to the lenses that I bring with me, and there are 3 of them. The 10-24, the 33mm f1.4, and the 70-300. The 10-24 is basically my wide angle lens. Whenever I arrive in some confined space or in a space where I need to photograph what is right in front of me, this is the lens that I would grab. Also, having OIS means that I usually use it for videos. So most of the time you will find my 10-24 on my X-H2S, and I find it more than enough for my needs. I usually do not shoot that much in low light. I would say that if I plan on shooting low light a lot, I might bring the 80mm f1.4 instead, but the 10-24 is basically enough for my needs. And I see a lot of comments about the resolution capabilities of the 10-24 on whether or not it is compatible with the X-T5. The 10-24 doesn't officially render 40 megapixel, but it doesn't mean that it is not compatible with the X-T5. It works perfectly fine with it. It is just that it might not render the full resolution. However, I would say that the resolution and the image quality that it produces is still great. So do not fear that by buying this lens you are going to have poor results. Next we have the 33mm f1.4, and well, this is my favorite lens. I would reach for this lens when I need a mid-range lens, when I need to photograph a portrait or a subject that is slightly out of reach for my 10-24. This lens has great image quality, great autofocus capabilities, it's great in low light, and it has replaced my 16-55 in my travel kit. And finally, we have the 70-300, which is basically my telephoto. Whenever I need the reach, whenever I need the compression, this is basically the lens that I will reach for. I would say though that sometimes the autofocus can still be improved on this lens. I feel like it's a bit hit and miss in some situations, but overall I'm satisfied with its performance. The way I walk around is usually I would have my 10-24 put on my X-H2S, my 33mm f1.4 on my X-T5, and if I need the reach, I will just, juggle with lenses and either put the 70-300 for video or for photos on either the X-H2S or the X-T5. I also usually bring with me 3 new generation batteries from Fujifilm. I feel like the X-T5 that I use mostly for photography, one battery usually get me through the day and I still have like more than 50% of battery after the end of the day. The X-H2S, if I take a lot of videos, I might need 1.5 batteries also. I also own a drone and I haven't changed my drone, it is still the DJI Air 2S. Now this drone works very well for me, both in terms of maneuverability. It's easy to maneuver, and the pictures and the videos that I produce with it are pretty good. I picked the Fly More combo with it, meaning that I have the controller and 3 batteries for the drone. And I feel that this is kind of a must because each battery would give me usually 20 minutes of flight, give or take, safely. You can push it, but you might not be able to bring your drone back. Not that it ever happened to me, right? So if you are thinking of purchasing this drone, I would definitely recommend to get the Fly More combo. When it comes to the memory that I bring with me, it's pretty simple. I have at all time 4 SD cards, and at the time I only have 1 CF Express Type B card, but I'm thinking of purchasing an additional one just to be safe in terms of backup. And the way that I work is simple. I would always have 2 SD cards on my X-T5, 1 CF Express Type B and 1 SD card in my X-H2S. Each SD card is about 256 GB, so that I do not need to delete anything while I'm traveling. And that way I know that at any time I have 2 copies of any pictures or any videos that are either on the CF Express Type B or the SD card and on my computer. In terms of filter, I try to keep it simple. I don't want to have tons of filters when I travel because that's an easy way to just break some, right? If you have a shit ton of filters that you have to manage. What I do is that I travel with 1 ND filter, variable ND filter from Earth, and 1 CPL, so a circular polarizer from 7 Artisan. I use the variable ND filter if I need to take videos, so usually on my 10-24 or another one if needed. And I would use the CPL, circular polarizer, if I need to get rid of some reflections or maybe some haze or some in this kind of conditions. And at all time, I would always travel with some adapter rings. That way, my filters that are 77mm, which was basically my biggest size of lens from the 16-55, I can adapt them on any of my lenses. In terms of accessories, I try to keep it simple. The Anker charging station that I use to charge my phone, my computer, my cameras, and my drone. Everything is in one. I can charge everything at the same time, and that way I travel lighter. All the cables that I need also. Also have 2 straps, 1 neck strap and 1 wrist strap. that I would use usually the wrist strap with the X-T5 and the neck strap with the X-H2S. That way I can have two cameras at the same time if needed, but usually I only use one. And finally, just a simple cleaning kit to make sure that I can clean my lenses or my sensor if there is any piece of dust that just gets stuck with it. And finally, when it comes to my computer, I always bring with me my M1 MacBook Pro 16-inch. The reason why I went for the 16-inch is to have an extra screen real estate. I think it's really useful, especially when it comes to editing pictures or videos. The 14-inch is great, but yeah, I just prefer having a little bigger screen to see a bit more details. And especially when you're on the go in a cafe or whatever, it's always good to have a bigger screen in my opinion. And that's about it when it comes to the gear that I bring with me. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you've missed it, check out this video right here, where I talk a bit more in depth about the X-T5 and how I use it for travel. See you there.